Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this Monday, October 16th. I'm Megan Reistad. We'll get you all caught up on all of our news headlines very soon, but first we'll get a quick check of our weather this morning. Hey, John, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Megan. It is a beautiful start to the morning.
As war rages on in the Middle East, people across the U.S. and here in Minnesota are showing support for both sides. Several rallies were held over the weekend, some in support of Israel and others in support of Palestine. And in just a few hours, Minnesota Jews Against Genocide will march from Gold Medal Park to Senator Amy Klobuchar's office. They're demanding support for a ceasefire in Gaza. This as Israel ramps up its military response to Hamas's attack. Right now, the death toll for Americans in the conflict is rising to 30, with more than a dozen still missing. Some can now escape, with Egypt reopening its borders today. Here's Bree Jackson. A senior U.S. official says Prime Minister Netanyahu invited President Biden to travel to Israel on a solidarity visit. The White House is considering that request. We are live from Washington, D.C. this morning with a look at the U.S. Capitol, where House lawmakers are just hours from a floor vote to try and pick a new speaker. Today marks 13 days since the House was left without a speaker, leaving them unable to do anything to help the situation in the Middle East. Right now, Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio is the front runner, but his chances of actually rising to that position are slim, since he's about 50-plus votes short of what he needs to get the gavel. In other news this morning, back home, a car chase in New Brighton ends with 2 people in custody, but not before some harrowing moments on the interstate. Check this out. So people running from a Honda Civic that crashed in the ditch across 694 yesterday morning. Okay, we'll zoom in here for you. Police tell us these people fled from an officer trying to make a traffic stop. You can see him running there. Officers tried to deploy stop sticks, but the car crashed before they could. Now they found one person hiding under a car, and a K9 found another inside a car. Officers are still looking for a third person. In St. Paul, 2 women are seriously hurt after a separate drive-by shooting at a memorial in a cemetery. Police say the women were part of a group gathering at a gravesite of a loved one for a balloon release at Oakland Cemetery when another group started shooting at them. Officers found several bullet casings at the scene, but are still trying to get a good description of the people responsible. In a matter of hours, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett will speak at the University of Minnesota. The conservative justice was invited to speak by the law school. She's expected to address a wide variety of issues, but her trip is not without controversy. Several people this morning are unhappy with her visit. Protesters are expected outside Northrop Auditorium today. And we are still a couple months from the official start of winter, but already St. Paul is getting ready for the snow that is guaranteed to arrive. Here's Sammy Salina. St. Paul Public Works says it is in need of snow emergency ticketers. There are also some vacancies for street service workers. And last week we saw a lot of rain here in Minnesota, and all of that means this drought is drastically improving across the state. But for farmers, it's adding some stress by putting the harvest on hold until the rain stops and the fields dry out. The rain has been hard on the apple harvest, causing the popular Honeycrisp to start to crack and spoil.
So then the trees absorb that extra water, put it into the fruit, and then they split open because the skin physically cannot stretch any farther.
Now, as for pumpkins, there's a bumper crop, but the rain made for some soggy stems that can easily break. As the high winds are knocking over drought-stricken corn stalks, the Department of Ag says it's experiencing some of the worst conditions across the state in the last 5 years. Well, here's something you don't see every day. The Highland Park Water Tower opened its doors to the public over the weekend for their fall open house. The tower is a landmark at the Snelling and Ford Parkway intersection. Hundreds of visitors climb the 151-step staircase to the observation deck to see the stunning views of the Highland area, Twin Cities, and Mississippi River.
It's just an iconic part of St. Paul. We've lived in Highland Park for over 20 years, and just a piece of history, and that's, you know, very much alive when you get to go in and check it out.
And that tower is also historically significant because it was built in 1928 by the first ever African-American municipal architect in the country, Charles Wigington. Let's get to the Vikings right now, who this morning are 2-4 this season after beating the Bears on Sunday. This time without star receiver Justin Jefferson, who's out for the next 3 games because of an injury. The Vikings didn't have the cleanest game, but they managed to take the lead right before halftime with a touchdown from Jordan Addison. The Vikings also had their first 2-possession lead of the season in the game. The Vikes took this one 19-13, their second win of the season. Next, the Vikings will host the 49ers at US Bank next Monday, and kickoff there will be at 7:15. Well, congratulations are in order for Lynx forward Nafisa Collier, who was just named to the All-WNBA first team. Fee averaged 25 points per game this season, 4th most in the league. She is the first Lynx player to earn first-time honors since Sylvia Fowles back in 2017. Still ahead, one man gets the shock of a lifetime when he saw how much he had to pay for his speeding ticket. We'll tell you how much he was fined in just 3 minutes. And then the mother of Jacob Wetterling is telling the story of her son's tragic abduction from her perspective in a new book. We'll hear about her memoir. That'll be at 4:50. First, here's John with our forecast.
Well, we are going to be talking about some very nice weather in the next 2 days. We'll also take a look at our